Welcome to Charts Today. It is Wednesday, the 8th of July. It is a very warm day here in the UK. We're having a heat wave at the moment, but the markets are certainly not having a heat wave, and we're seeing Middle East woes starting to come back, and that's pushing stock indices lower. But we start by looking at a chart of SpaceX. Now, of course, we don't have many days of daily data, but these candles are fascinating, and we have seen here that we've closed at a new low. Below the IPO level at 149.47, the IPO level was 150. So this means pretty much everybody, bar a handful of people who bought down here, but pretty much everybody who is holding SpaceX is now in a loss-making position. And that's what drives technicals, the sentiment. And if we look at the 60-minute chart, we have got downside targets to the 130s. That close yesterday on SpaceX at that level is not good news. And you can, of course, go to the shorter term charts if you're trading SpaceX. You can look at them in Trading View. This is the 5-minute chart, and you can see we've got downside targets of 143, 146. This is not a great looking chart, and so that's going to be really quite key there. Now, the big news is that we're seeing the Middle East coming back into fore with some exchange of fire between the US and Iran last night, and we are seeing here that upside target on Brent crude. Now, we have been bullish on crude oil for several days now, and we put out our report to clients every morning. Gas and power prices, UK power, German power, all these products are looking very bullish indeed, and we put our report out this morning, but that's having an impact on markets. And if we look at the dollar, that is remaining steady at the moment. This is the short-term chart. The medium-term chart there, we do have an upside target, but realistically, we haven't broken out in a big way. The Japanese yen has been a factor, and a lot of people talking about the shorting the either the yen or the dollar yen, but realistically, we are seeing intervention from the Bank of Japan and really just struggling to hold that level. And of course, we talk about bond yields. I mean, it is interesting that we are seeing bond yields in Japan just rising, nudging that 287 level. And so this is the pain barrier. These targets were given. That's on the short-term chart, US 10-year yields. We're also seeing an upside target there. So we are seeing bond markets actually coming back into the fore. And we're seeing here UK gilts have leapt. We were sitting at as low as 467. We're back at 490 now, so that's really quite significant, that upside target being met. German bond yields also pushing higher, so hitting the target. So bond markets are something that we do need to keep an eye on, and that Japanese bond yield is going to be a big one. Looking at Bitcoin, we're seeing here we've hit the buffers at around 64,000. We've got downside targets. If we look at the medium-term chart, that is still a very bearish chart. Some people calling the bottom on Bitcoin, but realistically, you'd be trading against the trend there, and the long-term picture is still one of bearishness. Back to 40,000 for Bitcoin. That's where the targets are pointing. So you really do have to watch that. Now, the Nasdaq last night, we just struggled again. We can see here on the chart, that was the beginning of June was our high point, and we have been struggling again. 28,500 is a level to watch. Looks like with the futures today, we're going to open lower. We are down 0.2% on the E-mini, and on the Nasdaq E-mini, we are down a third of a percent with downside targets. So markets looking pretty weak. That is filtering through to other markets. So we're seeing the FTSE down 1%. That's the future. Looking at the DAX, that future is down 1%, and the DAX cash down 2.3%. So didn't quite get to that upside target. That's bearish confirmation. So really quite interesting there. We did just touch a new high, but we haven't managed to hold it. So that's really quite key as well. And Japan, concerns starting to weigh there, but we have seen the Nikkei rise from 20,000 to nearly 40,000 in the space of just a little over a year. So that has been one hell of a ride. Looking at the Chinese market, this has looked pretty bearish. On the medium-term chart. Short-term chart, there's a plethora of downside targets. The same for the Sensex in India. This has actually been pretty weak, but now just recovering. So we can see on the daily chart, we're waiting to see if we can actually set an upside target. Looks like we've made the lower high, higher low. Can we make the higher high? That's the big question. The Aussie market down 0.2%, really stuck in a range there. On the short-term chart, not looking great as well. Looking at gold, we've talked about gold maybe having made a bottom. 4,200 is the level there for gold. That's what we've got to watch. We have got an upside target of 4,300, but realistically, that 4,000 level needs to hold on the medium term. That target was met, which is bearish confirmation, but we are seeing again a little bit of recovery. And silver equally we're seeing there, and if we look at the 60-minute chart, we are seeing that as well. Taking a look at the Mag 7 on the short term, Apple gave up a bit of space last night, and we are just hitting resistance at around that 315 level. Amazon, we're actually up 0.75%, so that's quite key. Google, Alphabet up, we're down slightly, but still looking pretty strong, especially on the daily chart. And if we look at Microsoft, they've been in the news for those redundancies, but not enough to really rescue the price. And if you look at the medium-term chart for Microsoft, it is a sorry story from $550 to $350, a really big move, and more downside targets. Nvidia, we've got a little downside target there. And on the short-term chart, it really has been a case of lots of targets. And Tesla has given up ground as well, down 4%. They did rise there, but it's a really mixed picture for Tesla. So quite a difficult call. And if we look at the medium term, they've just struggled to break out of this range. Just looking at the Dow 30, we've got Chevron was the best performer. Obviously the oil price having an impact there, but we are below the cloud on the daily chart. The 60-minute chart looking a little bit more promising, but we can see that it wasn't a bad day for the US market. But the reality is that we have got tech being hit. Looking at the Nasdaq, the laggards yesterday, Intel were down nearly 10%, Western Digital down 8%. We are just seeing ARM down 7%, AMD down 6%, Micron down 4.7%. So we're seeing tech being pretty badly hit. The leaders were a lot of the software companies, the companies that have been hit. They had a little bit of recovery, but they're only up a few percent, so they were outweighed by the fallers. And then last of all, a quick look at the UK market. We can see not many stocks up. We've got well, they were the star performer, really rising there, and you can see just hitting that upside target. BP, no surprises there with the oil pricing, a little bit of resurgence. Sainsbury's up 1.7%, and so that's looking quite strong. They've had a re-rating from 300 to 340, but realistically, it's a really tricky market at the moment. You've got to watch those targets. That's it for today. Keep an eye on that SpaceX chart. That's going to be the really key thing, watching that SpaceX chart and watching the targets, and do be prepared to go to the lower levels, like looking at 5 minutes even, again on TradingView. Until tomorrow, have a great day. Enjoy that sunshine. Bye for now.